Hi, it's Emma. Now, there are a lot of programs out there that are written by some fantastic people who've got great qualifications and what have you. But what I always want you to ask is, have you ever actually taught a child to read and spell yourself? Because it doesn't mean they can't, but it just means that they won't have the same experience as somebody who, even if they haven't got a PhD or whatever, who has actually taught every child in their class to read and spell, or taken struggling readers and what have you. So when I'm looking at, the results of a program, I also have to think, well, it's not just the program, it's the person who's using the program. So for example, if I was given resources from a different program, not SSP, I would still have a lot of success with the children, even if it went completely against what we're supposed to be doing or whatever, because I would adapt everything and change the terminology I use and how I explain things and whatever for children. So any program that you've got, remember that even if it's the best program in the world, it's only as good as the person who's delivering it. The most important thing is people, because even if I know exactly what every child needs to have, those children are different. They're going to need it in different ways. But there are a few things that I've sort of been hearing about just recently that I would like you to really question. It doesn't matter who's created the program or the intention behind it, which is obviously to get every child reading, whatever. What matters is results. But I also want you to take a very logical view of things, you really sort of always ask yourself why. Why are they asking me to do that? And I ask children to do that as well, to just question why. Now, what I ask people to do in the SSP approach is we start off with a group of phonemes, so we call them sound picks. They're just pictures of speech sounds. So even if you're starting off with SATPIN, SAT, PIN, you can read and spell all of these words. And it's not so much that we can go, whatever. It's so that they can learn, so that they don't have to have too much information. It means that we can learn to encode, which means that I can look at this, for example, and know that to spell it, I need to find ant. There are three sounds, ant, and then I have to choose which of the ones in the right order to create the word ant. So I put them in the right order. And it's also for decoding. So it's also for looking at the words and knowing, okay, well, we start on the left, so it's app, and then being able to blend it into the word tap. So just with this group of six sounds, phonemes, six speech sounds, at, put, it, and six of them, I can start to teach children the skills and concepts of reading and spelling just using these. Spell South Australia reader, then they don't have to go at-n. They can go an ant on the tap, and it gives confidence because they don't have to sound it out because they know those, so their brains already can quickly scan ahead and actually read it. So then as we move up through the levels, through the SSP levels, so we've done SATPIN and then we start learning new ones. So this might slot into our purple level SSP book tier. So if they've learnt these, then they can read this book because there's just different words and different variations on those sound picks. So they can read it, so they don't need to look at the picture and what do you think she's got? What do you think's in her pot and whatever? She can actually the person can actually look at these and go, dot, had a hot pot of, and even if they then have to sound it out, it, ook, milk. But what you want them to do is to be able to read and only have to slow down on a couple of the words on the page because they're the ones they're not quite familiar with. But because we're scaffolding, so here's dandelion readers, so we know that here they've learnt those, now they're learning those. Okay, so this book means it gives them a chance to learn these. So we know that they can read it. They haven't got to guess what it is. They can read it there. That's a helpful word. Cab. So all these words, doesn't matter how many words you've got here, what matters is, do they know those sound picks? There's a helpful word, has. But later on when we learn that this is actually a picture of z as well, not just s, then it's no longer a helpful word, they can decode it. So we want them at this stage to put what they've learnt with their decoding, with their learning the sound picks, we want to put it into practice so that they can go, Nan has got a big cap. Nan is in the big cab. So let's scaffold. So this would be in the yellow level because we know we've got there. That is one of the sound picks in the yellow level, and this is a read write ink. So you use all different types of readers. Doesn't matter what phonics program they're from. All that matters is that you look at the order that we're teaching the phonemes, which is the same as letters and sounds in the UK, and just slot them into the right place. So when they open this to read this one, here she's very nicely got the helpful words in red, which I like. So they know that they can read this, but they should by this stage be using this as the way to practice the sound picks they've been learning. Get in the, and then supposing they're not sure, they can't, oh, what was that one? Get in the bath. Get in the bath, Ben. And they might not say bath, they may say bath. So they might sound it as bath. Bath? Is it a bath? No, I say bath. Oh, okay, so get in the bath, Ben, said Mum. And because they have these and they can read them over and over, even if the first time they do it quite slowly, then they will remember what it says, but also they know it as well. So you put it together and they can get in the bath, Ben, said Mum. And they're really confident with it. And they carry on through, so then on they're a blue level. And this is when they're starting to do all the variations for the different sounds. They're starting to do, you know, they're doing split digraphs and whatever. So again, when you look at this, it's not about how many words there are, it's about can they read them. So they know that the A sound there, against, the school rules, there's a blue level sound pick, and there's a oo that we've been learning. Said is a helpful word. So in the blue level, they're going through, and again, the child won't look at that and think, how many words, because they know that they can actually write, they can actually read all these because they know all of these sound picks. And this is when more of the 3Q system sort of comes in. Sound clouds don't just help with the spelling, also helps with all this bringing it all together for the reading. What I've done is you can download all of these, and I've done them in order. So they're in the order of the teaching order for SSP. So we start off with the green level, and we're starting with SATPIN and what have you, and moving through. So I've basically printed them off and laminated them, and I'm going to cut them in half so that we've got 2 books basically, and put a little put a hole punch in and use a ribbon so that the children can then go through. They will know because it's in the order that you're teaching it. So once you've been teaching P, you can then have this out in the classroom so that they're looking at this and, oh, there's another picture for P, and they can see it in a meaningful context, and they can learn the song and whatever, so that they can start linking it together and it becomes more meaningful. So they're not just learning this one in a, you know, in the explicit way, you're also helping their brains to understand all of them. And children will go through these and look at these, and especially because on the whiteboards these actually move, so they understand, you know, that the pants fall down and all the funny things that they love. But I'm going to do that, you know, so he's bashing him over the head and whatever. So, but they look at this and they know, and they might come and say, tell me again, what is it? Bam, bam, bam went the hammer. Bam, bam, bam went the mouse. Stop, 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 said the speech sound lamb. And the cat ran away to her house. So here, lamb. Okay, we've heard that and we can see it. And we know that's a picture of and it helps it bring it all together.
And pants. Oh, he loves you reading to him. Good girl. Yeah, and in Anne's pants. Oh, cow! Do you think the cow would think that was funny? I think he's going.
And in a spin.
Yay! Give him a cuddle. Oh, he loves that. Thanks, honey. Right, do you want to find some to close? Oh, very big sip of milk. Right, now watch what we're going to do now. We're going to do taking turns. So Sam reads the first word, Nicholas reads the next one, but you've got to point to the words so that you keep track. So you'll say that. Wait, what are you saying? You're saying cup. And then you say the next one? Fell. Did you do fell?
Fell.
Fell.
Off.
Sam?
Fox got the cup back to me. His name was John. John had a pet fox. The fox had a dad.
Fantastic, you're working together.
Okay,
That's so cool.
I said very big cup
How'd they go?
was hot and volcanic. There was thunder and lightning after millions of days and night. When began to fall.
You are so amazing. When you sang.
I can blow hard, I can blow soft, I can blow warm, I can blow chill.
Caleb, wow, he can blow an awful lot, can't he? He can blow warm and cool. Here you read. Oh, Jaden is reading beautifully. Let me hear. That's beautiful. Can you put it on the table? Oh, fish. Let me see. What's that one?
Catfish.
Boyd, give me high five. Do you know what I love there? You looked at the sound pics. Dogfish. Boyd.
I read this.
Did you read it to me? Hold on. Wait.
Can I hold it up?
Wait, I want to see Jaden's gorgeous reading. On
a mat.
Jaden. Wow.
N and Mal. Mal and Anne. Do you know this? I'll show you.
Isaac, can you get a book to read? Caleb, can you come read to me, honey? Any book you want.
I said to my mum.
A and the E is one sound, isn't it?
I never had the
Oh, Jaden, if Evan's reading to me, he needs to read to me with the king. You can have it back up, please.
I think this one.
Will be looking at these as words, as individual words, because their brains can't quickly at this stage. We want their brains to go quickly, but at the very beginning stages, we want them to look not only at the words, but at the sound pics, at the parts of the words, so that they can look at that and think an, ant, on, tap, an ant on a tap, so that they can read it. And we start to build up, so they're going faster and faster and faster. But when we're at this stage, think of their eyes and their brains as this is what they're doing. And this is why it's so important not to use PM readers, but it's so important that they can decode every word. Because at this stage, the brain is having to go. Dun, 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 dun. That's what the brain's doing. The brain's looking at that, looking at that, looking at that. The brain can't look at that and scan ahead. It just can't. So at this stage, saying to a child, right, leave that word and read ahead and go back for comprehension is a nonsense, because the brain can't do that, because the brain literally at this stage is having to take each word as it comes, and not just each word, but each part of the word as you're going along. Then when we start to scaffold, we start to move through. So we start to move through to the purple level and the yellow level. This is when the brain can start to, instead of just looking at those individual words, can start to scan ahead just a little bit
We'll read that.
As reading brains go from the green level through to the purple and the yellow level, it starts looking at words but not looking at individual parts of the words, which is what we do in green. It starts to look ahead. So if it's looking at the word like carrot, then a brain that is developing that is shaping into a reading brain will start to go carrot, because they'll recognise the R bit. So they won't necessarily go they might go carrot, and that to me means their brain is progressing, which is fantastic. And we want that to happen with words as well. So they're not just looking at the words, they're scanning ahead. You'll be more conscious of your brain doing this, actually going back to looking at the beginning of the word and looking at the parts and sounding out when you come to an unfamiliar word. Because as a reader, that's what your reading brain will do. It'll go back to doing that at words it's not sure of, but the rest of the time you're scanning ahead.
To gain meaning. So you're looking at more of the chunk of the text as they're going. As they move into the
SSP blue level, and by now they've learnt at least 70 of the sound picks in our language.
That's when they can do what readers do, which is they're constantly scanning. So in fact, what we do is scan a big chunk of the text and then go back and make sense of it. It's happening so quickly that you're probably not even aware you're doing that. But what we're doing is the brain is constantly going like that, because it's the same as when I said when I'm reading, I'm not going, I know you're not happy with everything. I will be looking at this, and without even realising my brain's doing it, I'm looking at the whole of the big chunk to get the meaning of it, and then looking at the parts, getting the meaning, whatever. This is the way that readers who understand the text, this is what they do. So this is why I'm saying, and this is the stage where I said you can start to do the 3 cueing things, because that's what's happening. You are able to leave a word out and go back to it, because your brain can make sense of it and remember it. If it's a long word, well, I still don't ever look at the first sound and guess what the word is, because at this stage we shouldn't be looking at we shouldn't need pictures. I mean, we don't need pictures when we read. You don't look at the picture to get the understanding. You look at this to get the understanding with your vocabulary knowledge, because it's your visualization. When I'm looking at this, there's no pictures in this. All of this is the picture, because this is the picture in my mind. So this is why I'm saying, if anyone's saying point to the words, what they're doing is telling you to take the child back to this stage and point to the words. But actually, you don't even really need to do it at this stage. It helps to as long as you understand your child, you can understand what the child needs. But if you start telling a child who's here, or certainly who's here, to start going back to do that, then not only are you not meeting their needs, you're going to actually push them back, and you're going to make it frustrating for them. So please, if anybody is saying point to the words when your child is already at this sort of level of reading, then they may have a great qualification, they might have, I don't know what else, but ultimately it goes against logic. I mean, hopefully that is logical to you, and if you're a reader, hopefully you understand you don't do that. You don't no longer do this. Now you do this. Also, why we want to scaffold that wall, we want to scaffold the using the SSP book tier, so that they can go quickly from this of the decoding to this, which is rapidly decoding and also understanding, to this, which is just reading for comprehension.
Now, if you have children that are struggling with reading, first of all, look at the reading material, get rid of the PM readers because you're going to slow them down, and make sure you're scaffolding. If the children you have are they're still looking, and they're still very stuttery, so they're still very ant. So they can blend, but they're just doing it really slowly. What I've created, if you go to readaustralia.com/speedyssp.htm, and if that's ever blocked for I have a lot of traffic come to the site, then do the same page but on readingteachertraining.com. So it's the actual page is called speedyssp.htm. Send me an email if you're not sure, emma@readaustralia.com. But if you go on there, there are about 7 or 8 lessons on the green level. So that's just the level when we're doing that basic decoding, but getting them to do it quickly so their brains start to speed up, so that we can move move to that fluency. They're all free, but we need to have that rapid recall, that rapid decoding if we're going to move on to the purple level. So I hope you find those useful. Now, on a final note, I'm from England, as you can hear from my accent. Phonics has a bad rap, and probably because it's been taught quite badly for a few years, and it's kind of been a mishmash of things, and no one's really known what we're doing. And then because it doesn't work, it must be the phonics. It's never the program; it's the people using it and the understanding it, or whatever. And again, that's through no fault of their own. Research is not getting into classrooms, and that's where the BRICS project is coming about, because we need research into classrooms. SSP is based on evidence. It's based on evidence-based strategies. But phonics has had a bad rap, and I want you to understand that the SSP approach, phonics is only one part of it. But because I deal with a lot of children who struggle, then this part and the phonemic awareness part is what I'm focusing a lot on. Because generally, teachers, even with very little training, are wonderful at developing that vocab and that love of books and the listening to the stories and whatever. Please don't think that, my goal in life is to teach phonics. It's not. Phonemic awareness and phonics, we have to do it. We have to do it. So I think, well, if we have to do it so that every single child can read, then let's make it as fun as possible. Let's make it as systematic but fun as possible and child-centered as possible. And let's recognise that even if we're doing the phonics and the phonemic awareness and the SSP, you're still going to need to meet learning differences. That's personalities, interests and whatever. And that's what I'm trying to get across. But it's just a means to an end. Phonics and phonemic awareness is a means to an end. But let's make it as fun as possible. But my goal is to get children reading.